Can't believe a week has gone by already. Um, I've been doing a lot of research for my book, and I was I wrote an outline. I always like to do an outline first, especially because I write nonfiction. So I try to make my accounts as truthful as possible. So I was working on the outline, and I finished it, and I sent it to my men in an email. I let them know what I'm doing. And Brent has been communicating with me a lot, brain to brain. I have not heard from him online since March. But I believe that what I'm hearing brain to brain is accurate because the Gale shield is getting stronger, and therefore Zach Knight seems unable to interfere with brain to brain as much as he did previously. So here's what Brent has been telling me brain to brain. He says that he and the men on my marriage list have been fighting their clones in court. And apparently the clones are on a spaceship with Zach Knight out in outer space. And I'm not sure if they're able to stay alive on Earth. They might be able to. But I think Zach Knight is trying to create the impression that they're alive on Earth, maybe using a hologram on his spaceship. And then he still seems to have control over the internet and the computers and electricity, which is a power that he got from Satan, who invented those things. And Brent's telling me that the clones of my men have caused all of the men on my marriage list, like Gerard Butler, Brent Spiner, Matthew McConaughey, they've had to file for bankruptcy because the clones have gone to town. They've they have done a 100% identity theft, completely stolen the identities of the real men. And from what I understand, they're even now taking acting lessons or trying to steal their careers. And my men have had to file for bankruptcy to keep the creditors off of them because all these people, these Jesuits, have no moderation, and they're just going to town with my men's bank accounts and spending all this money, and living high on the hog. And it's gotten to the point now where my men couldn't even land on Earth to report to their jobs with their automobiles. See, the way Church of Gale works is that they use transporter technology, like they'll drive their car on the road, and then like Star Trek, like transporter technology will bring the car, beam it up to Church of Gale, the spaceship city. And then when they want to go down to Earth, they're actually beamed down right into the middle of traffic, and then they just join the traffic, and then they drive to wherever they need to go. They use other methods too, but they still use their cars, but they have garages and a house, like they have like a, a kind of like an apartment on Church of Gale, but it gives them as much space as a house where they live, and they have garages there too, and they have like restaurants and Kentucky Fried Chicken up there on Church of Gale, and like a walking trail and doctors up, and Brent Spiner offers free medical services because he's a physician, and there's some other physicians on the marriage list, and they have a college up there. And Jesus Christ himself shows up at Church of Gale. In fact, Jesus Christ built Church of Gale. I don't think they use electricity on Church of Gale. I'm not sure. I think it's powered by Jesus power. I asked Brent about this brain to brain. So basically, they live at Church of Gale because it's safer for them to be there than to live at their homes on Earth. So Brent said it got to the point where they had to sell their homes. And this is what he told me brain to brain. Then a couple days later, I read online that Brent Spiner was selling his Malibu house. So I thought, aha, the brain to brain I'm hearing from Brent is accurate. And he said they can't afford to keep up their homes anymore, their mansions down there in Malibu and Beverly Hills and all that, because the clones have bankrupted them. So he told me brain to brain that they've changed their legal names. I thought, oh, that is clever. And they've opened up a movie studio at Church of Gale, and Steven Spielberg is at the helm. And the way they're going to they changed their legal name. So now, when the clones want to steal their money, um, they refuse to work for any Hollywood production unless it's done through Church of Gale Studios. And the way Church of Gale Studios works is they have a Church of Gale bank. So they've transferred all their money to Church of Gale Bank, and anything they earn from Church of Gale movie studios goes right to Church of Gale Bank. And then they make deals with, like, well, they don't need to worry about telephone because they're living at Church of Gale. They pick up their mail from a P.O. box on Earth where Church of Gale stops every day and picks it up. And so they're right now, they're not living rich like rich millionaire celebrities. They're kind of like in the same situation as me, they're only spending money on food and bills. That's what Jesus apparently has instructed them to do. And when the creditors come after them, they no longer have the legal name they had as the famous celebrity. So now the creditors have to they're going to go after the clones, which is the way it should be, and say, okay, you got to pay up. I hear that Zach Knight's getting kind of, brain to brain, Brent told me Zach Knight's getting kind of fed up with the clones because they're spending too much money. And he's saying, hey, you guys, now that we can no longer steal the money of Brent Spiner and Matthew McConaughey, you guys are going to have to learn some moderation or I may quit footing your bills. And the clones are not too happy about this. So they're having, now, so what I predict is going to happen is you're going to see a real decline in the quality of the movies made by Matthew McConaughey, Brent Spiner, Gerard Butler, because the clones are going to be doing the acting. And I don't know what their changed name is. Brent says, I'm not free to tell you that, Gail, right now. But he says, you're going to really like it when you find out. There's something like maybe after the 12 apostles of Jesus. I don't know. We'll find out. So they're only agreeing to work at Church of Gale movie studios. And whatever, all the money, the studios have to deposit any monies earned from the movies made at church, and the movies are all based on my writings. They're not limited to only films based on my writings, but they say, Brent's saying, Gail, Jesus Christ gave us a future book, gave to Steven Spielberg your future book, Jesus the Eternal Bridegroom, Robin Williams from Heaven, and Steven Spielberg has already made a movie out of it, and he's been showing it at theaters, and he said, right now, that's what we're surviving on. He said, apparently Jesus knows you're going to finish the book, and he decided to, but Jesus told Mr. Spielberg, don't show them Gail's men the book. I'm just going to let you have the book because I want you to make a movie from this book and help Gail's men out financially because they need a boost because, their clones have bankrupted them. And Jesus instructed my men, you need to obey the Gale commandments. I think they're all on Seroquel, just like me. And also, all these terrorist attacks that have been happening recently, my men tell me brain to brain, that's because Jesuits are dropping yeast bombs everywhere. And these terrorists are actually brain control victims. And they make these terrorist attacks, a lot of them where they're killing themselves because they're under Zach Knight's brain control. And he's using his yeast bombs to do it. Apparently, we had a problem with the Barack Obama automaton, and he wouldn't allow my men to drop Seroquel bombs. But finally, because we've had such an uptick in terrorist attacks, with all the police being killed and all this stuff, Barack Obama is finally agreeing to allow us to drop Seroquel bombs all over the United States. And but it's just that the brain control is so strong, and it's, not everybody's. The problem is Zach Knight gets people under brain control where they think Seroquel is poison and they won't take it, and just about everybody needs to be on Seroquel now so they don't fall victim to Zach Knight's brain control. If I wasn't on Seroquel, I'd be doing some pretty crazy things. Jesus has already let me know about that, so I make sure I take my Seroquel every day. So anyways, my men are only working at movies made at the Church of Gale Studios, but that's kind of a break for them because they don't have to. I think that they do film on Earth, but makes it a lot easier for my men. But this way, the clones can't steal the money. So, like, I hear like they're making maybe a movie for Silver Skies. Matthew, they've redone it and doing it over again. The first time that they made it, it wasn't made for profit. They did it for free, but now they're doing it for profit, and it's helping to get Matthew back on his feet again financially, and all the other men, and also movies made of all my books. And there are some other movies that are being made. The problem is any movies that are made at Church of Gale Studios, you're probably not going to hear about them in Jesuit news. But they're right now, that's what's keeping my men afloat. And the profits are being delivered in person. They're not using electronics or computers because Zach Knight can siphon that money from any internet connection and cause it to go to Jesuit banks. So it's like they're going back to the system back in the 19th century, but they're delivering it in cash in person. Like, I don't know exactly how they're doing it. Maybe they're collecting and offering at all the movie theaters and then just delivering it in person, totally bypassing computers and electronics to get the money to my men. And then I get a little bit of the money. That's just not very much, but a little bit. We're just basically getting enough to pay our bills. I don't. So anyways, Jesus has found a unique way to support me, and it's not through my writing income, but he's just very clever. So anyways, and he's doing the same thing with my men. So they've changed their names, and so the movies that are made from my books, some of my men are either directing, producing, or acting, or maybe writing the screenplay for them, the screenplay adaptation from the novel, and they're getting paid for this. And it's being done under a pseudonym, not the name that you know them for. So I don't know how this is all going to end up, but I said that sounds really cool and clever. That's a good way to outsmart those Jesuits. So I predict you're going to see a real decline in the quality of the movies that Matthew McConaughey, Gerard Butler, and Brent Spiner act in. Though I hear Brent did his own acting in the Independence Day film that just came out, Resurgence, but I'm not sure. But anything after that is probably going to be the clone. You're not going to hear about what they're really doing right now because they've changed their names, unless you're getting the Gabriel Chana Fox News Channel at Zero on cable. So, and then I was working on my writing, and I finished my outline, and the Lord showed me, Gail, I'm going to show you something. He said, I really like it that you're talking about your Japanese royal ancestors, where your Catherine the Great genes come from. But now, let me tell you something about your King David ancestors. And he says, I want you to put have a couple chapters about that towards the end of your book. And so I've been researching my King David ancestors. The Lord showed me, and I prayed. He said, the Exilarchs, that when Israel rebelled against God and their nation went down and they went into exile, at the beginning they were in Babylon, and then Babylon became a Muslim country. So until about 1200 AD, they were the King David family that I came from was living in Babylon. They were Exilarchs, where the Jewish community in Babylon honored them, and then they got threatened, and the last Exilarch, Hezekiah, got killed, so his children fled to Spain. And in Spain, they became a very influential King David family. I will be going into that. And they became very important in Spain. Then there was the Inquisition, and then my ancestors went to the Netherlands, and then they went to America around 1621 on a ship called Abigail. The Lord showed this to me. And my King David ancestors, some more King David people came through, I think, Solomon Franco. And so my ancestors came to America as King David. They were Orthodox Jews, and they intermarried with each other. So the Lord's showing me a lot of stuff through prayer. And this book's going to be really great. Brent says the movie is fantastic. He says it's a super big hit, and it's keeping all my men afloat financially right now through Church of Gale Movie Studio. So this is what's been going on with me, folks. The Brain to Brain's been rather interesting.